Frustrated with freelancing platforms that don't recognize your worth? Tired of the whole client vetting process, talent mismatching, and insanely high platform fees? Alchemunity is the solution for you. Unlike all those other platforms, Alchemunity has a built-in process that prevents downbidding. It also does not charge freelancers any transaction fees. The talent matching process is also made easier with its unique gamified scoring system. And vetting is much more effective because Alchemunity offers a two-way review every time a project is finished. So if you see freelancing as a lifestyle and want to build a successful freelancing career, then choose Alchemunity. Register now at alchemunity.com.
Welcome back to Freelance Biz!
That's a giggle every time.
I love this show.
Me too. I hope you're having fun because we're having fun.
This is fun.
Come have fun with us because
Have
freelancing
fun.
can be so stuffy.
I know. And you know what's a big fail in freelance life?
What?
Hint, hint. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode.
Go
Is
on.
not having fun.
Yes.
Yes. And that doesn't mean, having to fly into different countries to drink and do a podcast together, but just having fun in your own business,
Yeah.
right?
Love your job.
Yeah, love your job, love what you do, love your life. All right, today, so something that Ashley and I have been talking about is kind of like the past mistakes that we've made. And we've actually had a couple people come in and kind of ask, what are the freelance fails? What are the fixes?
Right.
So we're kind of going to walk through some of the fails that we've had as freelance writers.
Or some that we've seen.
And some that we've seen.
Make.
That's true.
You
That's
guys.
right. We'll do those too. You guys. And how to kind of fix or avoid. Maybe you're experiencing some of these right now, or even avoid the ones that so you don't have to deal with it down in the future.
Do you want to start us out with number one?
Number one, yes. And actually I have a good story for this one too. So the first big freelance fail, and this doesn't matter whether you're a freelance writer, designer, programmer, photographer, is not meeting deadlines. And that is as someone who's hired writers for agency work as an agency owner and someone who's a writer themselves, there's literally nothing worse than not meeting deadlines. And especially when you don't meet deadlines with zero, okay, if you're going to miss the deadline, you got to at least give someone a heads up, give your point of contact a heads up. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you're setting the deadline for yourself, choose a deadline and then give yourself an extra 2 days because you might fall into a funk. You might not get the sources come through. Yeah, the sources might not come through in time, which is such a pain in the ass. That's happened to me before. But no matter what you do, you need to hit the deadline. That's it. What about you?
I think another freelance fail comes from a popular quote, which is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So not networking is a huge freelance fail. I would say the best projects and the best insights that I've received and the best referrals I have gotten have all come from building a network of people who are in the industry and people who are meaningful to me. And not only are they helpful for my career, but they're my dear friends.
Yeah.
So I just think freelancing can be really lonely. And it's lonely for everyone. And so just reaching out to people, have that coffee date over Zoom.
Join that Slack group.
Join that Slack group on Peak Freelance.
Join that Facebook group.
Join that Facebook group that I have called Freelance Writers and Copywriters. It's Freelance Content Writers and Copywriters.
Real creative, that one.
Real creative. SEO, search-tastic.
True.
If you go to a city and a freelancer is there,
hit them up.
Set up a coffee date, something like that.
Love that.
But yeah, do as much as you can. Join Twitter. Twitter's huge for writers.
I love Twitter.
Be annoying on LinkedIn.
Or not. You don't have to do that.
Go on. Okay, next one. What do you feel about what happens when a freelance writer doesn't ask for a brief?
I think that's a fail. And we've covered some of these reasons before, not taking a brief, but if you don't take a brief and you just take a really crappy brief.
Do you think everybody knows what a brief is? Very newbie news? Probably, huh?
I hope so.
Okay.
A brief is a description of the project and any of like the overviews and goals and style and any tone that the client uses.
Okay.
They have to give it to you.
Competitors, things
Competitors, yeah.
Assets.
Yeah. So I think an important, like if you don't get a brief from someone, you're setting yourself up for failure and like beyond a business failure, like, you know, like you're
I've
setting
actually had a couple problems because when I started freelance writing 11 years ago. And I must say, like, freelancers like talking on Twitter and giving their advice and freelancers blogging and like all these like resources did not exist at this time. Like it was, or at least I didn't know about them. If they did exist, I don't think they did. But I didn't start all my projects with a brief. And it was probably just for the first couple years, but I had situations where I was like, oh, okay, I got this topic and I took the approach and the client, like, it totally missed the mark. And there would be no way of me knowing that, but we didn't communicate from the get-go, like exactly what they wanted. And this is why I'm such a brief stickler, because I've done a few projects where it was like, oh, like I didn't hit the mark, but they didn't communicate to the mark, but that falls on me to completely rewrite it.
Totally. I've even had a situation recently with I don't even know if they're a new client. I only got 2 articles from them. We were supposed to have a retainer, but didn't get fulfilled. But I got a decent brief. Normally not the one I like using, but I was like, I let it go because I do that, you know. And in the after the first round of edits, there was a part where they said, well, let's actually remove this entire section and talk about I can't get too specific, but let's talk about our product feature here instead of what you wrote. I was like, well, I literally wrote 1 paragraph about it because I was like, that should have been included in a brief. But that's something that I should have communicated in the brief. And that's why using a brief template and giving your client the brief template that you use, even if they don't use it, you have to let them know, like, this is what's important to put in the brief. Like, they may use their own, but they may take some elements from yours.
Right.
But yeah, like, just sending them the brief template just so they get an idea of what type of information you need and communicating that. That's how you fix that one.
Yes. I have a brief you can buy for $29.
Shameless plug. Or shameful plug.
Big time shameless.
All right.
I kept it cheap though, so that it's really accessible.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you a lot of money. It saves you time. Think about it. If you only spend $30 and you save 30 minutes in not re-edit, like not fixing a stupid edit because you got
like
information in a content brief.
Rewriting a whole entire article.
Or spending the time making your own. Ew.
Yeah.
Gross. So, so when it comes to like, what are some of your client fails, like when it comes to vetting clients or like?
Oh, I have some good ones. Okay. So I am not as smart as Michael. I don't think we were talking about this the other day where I've had clients just straight up not pay me.
Oh,
He's never had that happen.
That never happened.
And I think that I think that probably a lot of freelancers fall victim to this, like just making sure that the person that you're working with is from a reputable company, that they are sending contracts, that just fully vetting your client to make sure that they are a client who's credible, who's going to pay you. If you are iffy, require a deposit. And even if you like charge per word or something, you can do something like, this is going to be a 2,000 word post. I'm going to charge you for 1,000 right now. And at the end, I'm going to
give you the rest. Like,
I'm going to
bill you for the rest.
I'll bill you for the rest.
2 separate invoices.
Yeah. And if a client is not willing to do that, then it's like red flag, run away. So yeah, just really do your research into who the client is, see if other freelancers have worked with them. I don't really run into this problem as much now because the people I work for are usually like large SaaS companies, but I did when I first started and I was just like clamoring for work or whatever. So yeah, I would just say a fail is not vetting a client. The fix is vet them or get a deposit.
When you say vet though, like what are some of the criteria to vet? You know, because I know, for example, like if you're working a lot with startups, I mean, again, this doesn't guarantee anything. None of this guarantees anything. It's really just like a probability. But if you see that if you check Crunchbase and see that they just got funding or whatever, they have some money, like they're more likely to pay. But what are some of the criteria you look at when you're vetting?
Yeah, I think like what company they're representing, whether they are an actual content marketer for a company or not necessarily a content marketer, but a point of content for a company or for a startup, as opposed to somebody who's just like, oh, I'm starting this thing and I need content for my blog or something. Just like making sure that you are writing for somebody who's credible, as opposed to just like, oh, money. And then anytime there's doubt, ask for a deposit.
Okay, I love that.
And you don't have to ask for the full thing, just a 50-50. But when probably the first couple of years, I lost money to just like whatever clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned this in a previous post, like, I even had that client who I did vet them and they were a good client. They came recommended and they're a friend in the industry, just asked me to reduce my rates by half. And I was like, it didn't end up happening, but I think, I don't know, that could be a situation where like it's nice to talk to other freelancers who've worked for that client and to see how it's going. There was a Facebook post asking for more writers for this client, and I was able to like get in contact with other writers and say, this is what happened with me. Just like be wary of the situation. And so yeah, that was another avenue I took.
Yeah, and if there's any potential clients listening to this, just meet your set expectations and deliver on them. So.
It's so much cheaper to hire, even if your freelancers are charging you high rates. It's so much cheaper to hire a freelancer than it is to bring an in-house.
Depends on the volume, actually.
It doesn't. I know, but they have to pay for insurance. They have to pay for a place for them to come. There's like so many criteria that they have to worry about.
There is, but internally in corporate, there's they only allot a certain amount of money to an individual freelancer because they know the breaking point of when they can hire someone in-house for cheaper.
Right.
That's why more money goes to agencies. So.
Agencies.
Agencies.
Are you tired of freelancing platforms not meeting your needs? Talent mismatch, lowballing, high transaction fees, just to name a few of the problems. Alchemunity solves these problems and more with its unique gamified scoring system. Check them out today at alchemunity.com.
So in that realm too, what are your thoughts on contracts then?
Okay, so I say either get a lawyer or buy a prepaid template that's made for
that Ashley sells for a $99. No,
I actually do have one that I sell for.
You do?
I have one.
Know that.
But it is 100% like
written by a lawyer.
It's written by a lawyer who does contracts, a lawyer who does freelance contracts, and it's adjustable for your clients and based on what you're doing. But the main reason that I send clients the main reason that I send contracts to clients, yes, like I'm never going to take someone to court. Like I don't have the money for that, but it establishes like a professionalism, I think, like saying, these are my expectations. Like it's a great way to outline, this is the scope of the project. This is what you will pay me for. This is what happens if your payment is late. This is like, it just makes your business a lot more professional. Yeah. And I think that also scares away the clients who like aren't good. It's another good way to like vet your clients.
Love that. Get away from me. You're no good.
Me?
No, not you.
Oh,
the bad client.
The
bad client. I think another huge freelance fail is not getting an accountant.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I overpaid so much. Okay, I'm not qualified to give tax or legal advice, but I can just say that I overpaid a lot of money when I didn't have an accountant. Mm-hmm. I overpaid a lot when I was trying to do my own taxes as a freelancer versus getting an accountant who understands, the structure. If you are, if you're an S corp or an LLC, like they understand how to manage taxes and your tax liability. So just get an accountant, save yourself money and time. They might seem expensive at first, but you're going to overpay if not.
Right. It's the same reason why you hire a freelance writer as opposed to trying to write something yourself when you can't put a sentence together.
Literally.
Like I don't know anything about accounting. My accountant knows everything. I pay him. He figures it out.
Yeah. And that's also, it kind of leads into the next point is like, outsourcing easy tasks, even though accounting's not easy, but it's outsourcing stuff that you're not good at. You know, and even stuff like research, you know, yes, writers are typically really good researchers, but there are people who specialize in that too, and they're better researchers than you, chances are. So why not just engage them in a, like, or engage them, what am I, like a B2B jargon house today? Why not partner with someone who's really good at research to improve the quality of your articles and the credibility of your articles?
Great. Love it.
Love it.
Another mistake is not
Charging. Oh, sorry.
not charging enough.
Not charging enough.
I think that I undercharged for a lot of years. I also think I should get paid like $1 million a word. Just kidding.
$1 million a word. Should be the most profitable writer in the world.
That's a story for another day. Yeah, I think this is something that I feel like is huge. Like, what feels like a lot of money to us is not a lot of money to a big tech company.
Of course not.
So it's like, you're like, oh my gosh, I could do this for $200. And it's like, or I could do it for $1,200.
Right.
And they're not going to blink an eye. So I just think there's a couple ways looking at benchmark reports to see what other people are charging. Straight up ask another freelancer. Like, I've had new clients, and you know, if I've been referred by a friend or something else, like, hey, does this sound like, these are my rates? Does it sound like it's in scope with what the client, you know? And they'll be like, whoa, you are way undercharging, or like, you need to charge more. And so checking in with other freelancers, and I've never had someone be like, oh, that's not. And sometimes even asking the client, like, what's your budget for this? And you're like, oh, I was going to charge you $1 for this, and they're going to give me $2,000 or whatever.
That's a 2,000% gain.
And one tip that actually came when I was putting my research report together for benchmarking rates. So one thing that another freelancer suggested was to raise your rates by 10%. So like,
I've suggested that before.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, every client, like 5 to 10%, depending on how much you're charging. Like 10% when you're charging $1,500 an article is big jumps. But for every client that I've gotten, I would do between 5 and 10%. There's really it's just an arbitrary 5 or 10%, no rhyme or reason. I was just like, I'm going to raise my rates 5% next time.
You can also kind of gauge it by like what the market is doing. Like during the pandemic, like you could charge more because freelancing was in such a high demand. There's a little bit of a recession. You kind of have to,
adjust.
But one thing what was I going to say? Brain fart.
One thing that you're doing in the recession.
One thing that I'm doing in the recession. Oh, there was something, I don't remember what I was going to say.
But it's fine.
What are we even talking about?
We were talking about your personal brand, and when you started investing in it, you realized what a failure your life was before you started investing in your personal brand.
No.
Oh, okay.
My life was not a failure.
No. a bit dramatic. But what's the point? That's drama. Like,
oh gosh.
But to that point, her life wasn't a failure, but investing in the personal brand
was
a mess. But investing in the personal brand, I mean, even for myself too, like you've got like 12,000 something followers at this time. I've got like 2,000. And regardless of like how many followers you have, just investing and sharing your thoughts in publicly is helpful.
Yes.
It's definitely helped me grow and even feel more confident as a freelancer, like, because I wasn't keeping everything to myself. But I really like investing in my personal brand, just tweeting a little bit more than than usual has really made me like also more proud of my work, you know? And even like some of my friends came across my Twitter and they were like, oh, you like share your thoughts. I'm like, hell yeah. Like that's what Twitter's for, you know? Like building like an identity for yourself online.
Yeah. And you're also like, when you work for an agency, the agency takes care of that. When you're a freelancer, you are your marketing team.
Right.
And so, I mean, promote yourself, like get to know people, market yourself. Like you have to be, I always say, if people don't know who you are, if people don't know who you are, then they can't refer you or they can't hire you. And so you have to make yourself visible and show people, you know, what you're good at.
And I've had clients before tell me like that they've checked my website, my Twitter, like they find you online before they interact with you.
We didn't talk about this one, and there's controversy around this, but I believe heavily that not having a website is a freelance fail. And
Wow.
I have personal experience with this. So I've been freelancing for 100 years. 100. I'm decrepit. Okay.
You've been freelancing for 100 years. You
Freelancing.
can do this. I believe
I've
in
been
you.
freelancing for 100 years. And for the first 50 years. So when I first started, I had a website. First step, like that was probably the first thing that I did. I had a website, I put up some spec pieces, and I really, really grew my blog. I had a lot of pieces. I had some training courses, I had some guides, and then I just got kind of sick of my brand. I was like, oh, I hate this. And I just deleted everything, and I went to an online portfolio and just kind of put some pieces up there while I rebranded. But what happened is when I stopped having that, I had a huge dip in client work because people could not find me. They didn't know who I was. They couldn't see. And anyway, so probably a month or two after that, I put my website back up, and sure enough,
leads started coming in.
leads started coming in. So I think that, your work will definitely speak for yourself, and your work can give you a name, but also you are going to get huge leads from having a website. And it's not hard these days anymore to put up a website. It is very easy. It can be super simple.
Yeah.
A website.
I did one in 2 hours once. It wasn't the best, but it was a good MVP, to start getting clients in, just to get your presence out there. So
yeah, just make sure that you exist somewhere in your own space online with a website.
Love that. And then do you have any other last additions that you want to add? I'm going to throw one out there. Okay. So there was a point in time where I felt a little bit stuck in my freelance business. And it was recently, actually. And I had a consultation with a big name freelancer that we all know. And and
was that me?
No, it wasn't you. But I did a paid consultation and kind of laid out what I felt was stuck in my business and where I wanted to get to, my goals and everything. And the advice that this person gave me changed my business for the year. I actually made 66% more this year than I have last year. And if we're I've made 66% more year over year at this point from the advice that this person gave me. So I'm a huge fan, and I think it's a freelance fail to not take advice from people who you admire. I think that'd be the way to put it, because there are even I was browsing Twitter today, and there's 13 and 16-year-old writers out now, creating $10,000 a month writing businesses and communities. Yeah, could you not? I was just browsing around and I came across, I forget the names, but I was like, damn, that's fucking cool. These kids are out here building writing businesses and talking about marketing and stuff like that. If someone inspires you, you like their work, take their advice, run with what you can from it.
Even if they haven't gone through puberty.
Even if they haven't gone through puberty yet. I'm not saying engage your 13-year-old. I'm just saying it can be anyone. It could be you. It can be Kaylee. It could be Emma. But I'm just saying there's a lot of people those kids that are hustling out there and doing the work. That's inspiring to me.
Right.
And
totally.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And even if you're 40 or 50 or 30, it doesn't matter. If they inspire you, take their advice and take it and run with it when you can.
Even if you have to spend money, you can spend that money to make money. Because the $500 that you spend on a consulting call versus year over year increasing by 66%, that is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it is. Bye.
Thanks for being here. We love you. Freelancers for life.
Freelance for
Besties.
life.
Have fun. Hashtag have a good day.
Hashtag day.